Hey, this is Terry Bain with another episode of Business Growth Time. Today, we're going to be talking about 10 lessons to improve your communication. With me, as always, is the lovely and talented Janet E. Johnson, where today the E stands for ending. I don't know what's ending, but I said just ending. I had to come up with an E word today.
I did. I saw you looking around going, what E word am I going to do? We're running out of E words, I think. I don't think you can ever run out of E words, but ending. Okay, so ending. Well, I don't know how to follow that up, but
you're not sure what to do with that. Ending.
We're starting our show at this point, so there will be an ending to the show too.
You know what? We talked about other podcasts that we've listened to and how other people are doing their intro and all their fun facts that we do at the ending of our show, and they do it at the beginning of their show, and maybe we should do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. So I listened to a lot of podcasts, and one of the things that I noticed was one gal really, she actually mentioned the places you can find her at the beginning of the show. And I think that many of you might not listen to the very end, so we will mention it right now, but we will also mention it at the ending too. So you can find us at Business Growth Time on Facebook is a great place. So if you just search Business Growth Time, we're going to create a link for this. But at this point, we have a group, and it's a pretty active group, and we've got a lot of contributors that bring in a lot of points for entrepreneurial business growth, obviously, because that's our main topic. So join us there, and then you can always find our past episodes on businessgrowthtime.com /blog or /podcast. That would get you to all of our past episodes too. We have
there's like 60 of them now.
Lots of content from social media. We've had just amazing guests on our show. And there's just, you can go way back and I'm sure you'd find something of interest.
We like to believe that it's true. Oh, that's so fun. All right, so look, we put the ending in the beginning, and yes. Evidently there was a reason that the E came out, and you're absolutely right. I was looking everywhere in my office for something that started with an E.
That reminds me of the game you play. We just did a road trip, and have you ever played the game where you have to do the alphabet and find it with the cars in front of you? Oh, I got the A. I got the B.
Absolutely. Good luck finding that Q.
That's where you get stuck. Yeah.
Do you use the license plates? Is that part of yours?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. We never use license plates. Just it was like signs, road signs.
Okay.
And so the authorized vehicles only, right? That was the Z, and there was this one Quaker State Oil sign that was in between the trip. And if you didn't start on the front side of that, you never ended the game. That was it.
So I think people can relate to that game. Yes, exactly. So now today it's interesting because we're going to be talking about C. And the interesting thing is I just did a Facebook Live this morning talking about many C's, but I did not have this C in it.
Many C's.
Yeah.
What were the many C's you covered?
Content, conversations, conversion, contests. I talked about all those. Now we're going to be talking about communication.
This is so God. I'm waiting. I'm not necessarily the count, but who is the guy? Today's Sesame Street episode is brought to you by the letter C. This is fantastic. One C.
Okay, we're having way too much fun here.
This is good. Yeah, we should do this more often because if no one else even listens, we were thoroughly entertained today. You can tell. All right. So we're going to talk about communications because to me, in the list of things that are important in business and in life and in relationships, communications is at the absolute core of it. And oh my God, do we screw it up so very, very often.
True.
We just do. We do. And I think the number one lesson that I like to teach people about is that communications is so much less about talking and speaking and what you're going to say and how you're going to say it than it is about listening and more importantly, making sure what you say and what they heard align. Because if you think about our communication, we communicate from our perspective, right? We know what the message is that we're trying to get across, and we say it in the ways that we're comfortable saying it. But we don't necessarily know for sure that it lands on the person or the people that we're communicating to in the way we intend it, unless we
how they perceive it.
Check in. Exactly.
How they perceive it. And, you know, a great example of that is texting.
Oh my gosh. Written communication, brutal sometimes.
It is. People can perceive it in completely different ways than you meant it to be.
I have been trying to get a friend of mine to create a Sarcasta font for about 6 years, right? So Comic Sans is kind of known as a joke font, but if you had a font that instantly just conveyed sarcasm, it would be so much easier for Facebook posts or for texting or for email, right? Because you would just know. Because sometimes people have a really dry sense of humor, and if I'm being a smart aleck and you don't know I'm being a smart aleck, it lands wrong. So that's part of that perception, part of that making sure that what was intended was what was received. And that's such an important piece.
It is.
All right, so we talked a little bit about listening. I tell people there are 3 types of listening that they need to focus on. And the 3 types are active, critical, and empathetic. Active listening is where you and I are having a conversation. I say something and you paraphrase a portion of it back to me. And so you can show that you understand, and it makes perfect sense, right? So that's really an important form of listening, especially when we're talking to our clients, we're talking to our kids, when we're talking to our significant others. We want to make sure that there's that understanding.
So I'm really supposed to paraphrase back to you. Is that what I just did?
That's exactly what you just did. It's like you're such a good listener, Janet E. Johnson, which shockingly, I know this is going to be a surprise, turns out women better listeners than men. Who knew, right? Who knew? So that's one. Empathetic listening. Empathetic listening is the type of listening that you may get if someone's having a breakdown, right? If someone's having a hard day. If you're a counselor, a psychologist, you're going to be awesome in empathetic listening. You're going to be really caring. You're going to make sure that they feel like they're being heard and that they're being loved at the same time. Really great, especially when your significant other or your kid's having a bad day. You got to switch into that mode immediately. Or when your client's ticked off at you, probably helps too. And the last one's critical listening. Critical listening is what we end up doing to podcasts, right? We listen for the big points, the big ideas, the things that really matter and are going to be able to propel us, those nuggets that we're going to be able to take away and put into our life. And we kind of gloss over all the superficial stuff in the middle. Superfluous was the word I was looking for. That's superfluous. Yeah. Does that start with an E? Because I would use that. No?
No. Yes. I don't even know the word. So, okay.
I'm going with Janet S. Johnson from now on.
You might have to change it at some point. The words.
So, listening is so key, man. So key. And those 3 types are really important. I do argue with myself, and I've done it in front of people numerous times about I don't know which is more important, the ability to listen effectively or the ability to ask questions, right? And it's funny thing about communications. We think when we're speaking that we're in control of the conversation. The truth of the matter is the person that's asking the questions, they're the ones that are driving the discussion. So when you ask questions, you're actually in control of the communique.
But it's important to listen to their answers and then feed off of that after the fact. Because you can ask questions and then zone out.
You can. You absolutely can. And people do all the time, right? Look, hey, I'm part of the conversation. How often are you texting someone and your spouse is talking to you and you're like, well, then what happened? And you had no idea what they said the first time. You just heard them stop talking. And then you were like, oh, I better ask another question so they can keep talking. and then they feel like they're being heard, but you're not paying attention at all. Or did I just reveal guy trick number 74?
Well, what is it?
Asking questions at the right time when someone takes a breath or takes a break from speaking. That are hopefully the right question because you weren't listening to a darn thing they said beforehand. You can't do this with your clients. This is more interpersonal stuff.
Got it.
You got to pay attention to your clients, for good Lord's sake. Please do. But when you're with your spouse sometimes and they're telling you the story about how their day went, right? Or the conversation they had with somebody, and you're like, oh yeah, tell me more, right? That whole thing. You don't do that.
Oh, well, I do know that. Yeah, we have that. I couldn't go blah 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 blah. And did you hear anything I said? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's not so much that you do it; it's that you receive it. Is what I just heard. You're familiar with it happening. You're just on the wrong side of it.
Exactly.
And that's why I said I could have just revealed guy trick number 74. So
exactly.
Entirely possible.
Good.
So asking questions, there's two types of questions that you need to ask. You need to ask open-ended questions, or closed-ended questions. And you know the difference between those two, I'm sure.
Well, and in sales, they say you want to stay on the positive side. So getting the yes. If you get somebody to say, I don't know, this goes back to, the old sales tactics, but if you get somebody to say yes 7 times, then they're going to buy from you, blah, blah, blah. But, you want to keep it on the positive. So obviously, I think asking the yes questions would be a better option than asking something where they're going to answer no.
Sure, absolutely. And you definitely want to keep people upbeat and excited. And, the difference really being open-ended questions going to ask a question and they're going to be able to elaborate, right? They're going to tell you a story or a bunch of information, whereas a closed-ended question, to your point, is just a simple yes or no question. So you do want to, you want to get buy-in. So does this make sense to you so far? Yes. All right, there's one.
It doesn't make sense, does it?
Yeah, don't ask
a question. I mean, right there.
Is this the dumbest conversation you've heard today? No, it isn't. Good. All right. So the next tip, and this is really important if you're on the phone and you're calling people, but it's certainly very valuable in person as well. And it's smile. Just smile, because you can hear it in somebody's voice, right? And that's almost contagious.
So when we're typing posts on Facebook, should we be smiling?
We should be smiling.
I was when I posted the cat video today. I was still laughing as I was posting it.
I just, the fact that you posted this will be good for cat haters too. No, they won't. Cat haters aren't going to watch your video about a cat. They won't. They don't. They you know why? Because they're cat haters. By definition. They don't care about
look at the comments. I bet there's people in here. This is why I hate cats.
All right. Well, you know what? You've got a second. I'm going to bring up our next point. You go look at that. You want a full report, darn it. It's like I had to give the report on what eponymous meant.
Got it.
That didn't actually do. I gave it to you though. All right. So one of my favorite quotations about communicating of all time comes from a young man who's really old and dead now, by the name of William Butler Yeats. And William Butler Yeats said, "Think like a wise man, but communicate in the language of the people." And if you think about what that means for a second, right, you always got to be a step ahead of the people you're communicating with, but you also have to know your audience. So if I'm going to use words like superfluous, right, and I'm talking to someone who doesn't know what superfluous means, that doesn't do that great a job of making me feel smarter as much as it does make somebody feel less than. And you can't do that. You've got to make sure that the people you're talking to feel great about the interaction with them, right? Okay. With you. Mm-hmm. So to do that is a bad move, right? So you just want to use words that people are going to understand, right? Like, oh, it's just overdone. Okay, got it. I understand what that means. So understand where the people you're communicating are so you can relate to them, and more importantly, they can relate to you.
I totally agree with that one.
I think it's so important. So important. All right. One of the things that is my favorite piece, when I went to school, I studied psychology. I was going to school to go be a teacher or to be in business. And I took a psychology class my second semester there, and I was like, whoa, I'm really messed up. I got to learn more about this. And so I ended up majoring in psychology because I was like, maybe I can fix myself. No. Yeah, I'm fixing. But at least I got to understand how other people are messed up.
Sure.
That was really cool.
Yeah. I think everyone is in their own way, but yeah.
Hey, we're all some kind of special screwed up. I got done with all the requirements for psychology quick enough that I got to take a second major in communications. And so I was like, whoa, what a cool combination this will be to get into business, right? If I can understand how people think, and then I can understand how to communicate effectively with them. Boom. That'll be a really good combination. And it has been for sure. So one of the things that you learn early on is this thing called the Myers-Briggs personality indicator, right? So people can go and get their Myers-Briggs type, Myers-Briggs, Myers-Briggs. And you can go understand your personality type. And there's 16 different personality types. And, are you an extrovert or an introvert? Are you it's ENFP. So is it nurturing or no, it's intuitive or sensing. So it's intuition or sensing, right? You experience the world that way, and then there's perceiving or judging, and there's thinking or feeling. And everyone has the combination of those.
Yep.
When you understand what your type is, you can understand how to relate it better to the other people you're communicating with.
Plus knowing theirs, like kind of learning how they are. We did something that was blue, green, red, yellow.
Blue, green, red, yellow
was the fluffy, environmental type, caring. Red is hard, the aggressive, assertive. Blue is the fun. And what am I missing? Green, anal.
Green is analytical. Really? That sounds like fun.
And it's pretty easy to just guess what people are.
Because they fall into the categories pretty quickly.
Yeah, but and sometimes, like I used to be all blue pretty much, all the fun, but as my business has grown and as I've changed, I moved from the blue to a lot more red, where, I have the fun still, but yet the red business side of me, has grown a lot. And, and some people that if you can talk to them in the right manner, knowing, what, this person cares about people. So we want to focus on, not cares about people, but they're wanting to help the world. They're living for, that's the yellow, and they're, wanting to help the world and make things better and lovey-dovey. And so then even if you're a reds have a hard time talking to those yellows.
Exactly right.
So you've got to maybe go, if you go aggressively and assertively you're going to the communication is going to be so gapped.
Total breakdown, right? Because they won't even hear each other because you're not speaking in the same language. Exactly. Yellow people end up being kind of flowery and all, like everything's easy going, and red people are like, just get to the point.
Just do it. Like my favorite saying, but
yeah. I'm a little bit of all of them except for green. I have no green. There's no It's so funny. Speaking of, there's a cat anus right in front of me. Nice. Janet's got her cat, right, walking around in the studio, hanging out, trying to get on the mic. I'm waiting for some cat rap coming out, which is like catnip, but way with a better beat. So along those lines, there's the DISC profile, right, the DISC, so you can go and take that assessment. But we had a guest on a few months ago, maybe last year even, that created her own system, and it was called Discover Your Epic Code, EPIC. So discoveryourepiccode.com. And this is an assessment that you can be done with in 90 seconds. You can hand your client or your spouse or whomever your mobile phone, have them do it, and they can be done in 90 seconds. And again, same kind of detail, same kind of information. You get to understand exactly who they are and know how to communicate with them.
Love it.
Stuff.
Love it. It is. It really is. Harvey Mackay. Do you know who that is?
Love him.
He had done, I have a picture with him because I met him once.
You do?
I do. It's really old.
First business book I ever read.
Really?
How to Swim with the Sharks Without Being Eaten Alive.
Yeah, exactly. And then I had got a signed copy of the next one for the jobs. I didn't ever read it because I wasn't looking for a job, but people looking for a job, it's a great book. And what he does with every client of his is he has them fill out a form. They fill out a survey. He knows their birthday. He knows he knows anniversaries, all their information. He gets them to fill out a personal form. And it just stood out to me because you learn a lot about somebody, and obviously your communication is going to be better if the more you know about your clients.
That's brilliant. That's really, really brilliant because he was Bob Berg before Bob Berg existed. Speaking of a guy we've had on the show, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Harvey Mackay took such a personal interest in his clientele and kind of similar to Bill Svoboda, who we've had on the show.
Yeah.
So much about customer experience. Forget about
show number 59, customer care. Yes.
Yes. Well done. Yes, indeed. Customer care. I love that idea. But it's so important. And the more you get to be inside of your customer's head, right? The more relatable you become. And the more you can be on their terms as opposed to on your terms. And that's kind of how we started this whole thing out, that we communicate from our perspective. We really need to figure out how to do it from theirs.
Exactly. But still stay your authentic self. Don't change your personality. Don't change who you really are just because you're talking. If you're talking to somebody stiff, you know what my biggest goal is when I'm talking to somebody that is like this and doesn't want to smile, they just.
So stop talking to them? Oh, that would be my biggest goal. You just want to make them laugh.
Yeah.
I want to break you.
That's my biggest goal. And I 95% of the time succeed. I don't care what I don't care if I have to go like this or whatever. No. I mean, I just, I think if you laugh, it makes others laugh too at times, but there's some people that just don't have it in them. So it's always my goal to break that ice somehow. And then I think in the communication process, if you can break that ice with somebody that doesn't, isn't responding, if you could figure out a way to just break the ice, your whole communication, that whole conversation is going to go much better. Whether it's through social, whether it's live, any form.
I think that's really true. I think that's very important is we have to get through to people, right? Sometimes you have to be patient, right? And I didn't have that on the list, but you have to be patient. And I loved your point because it should have been on the list is staying true to who you are and being your authentic self because people can spot a phony a mile away. They can spot the used car salesman a mile away. And nobody, I don't think anybody likes the backslapper guy, right? Hey, how you doing, slap?
We just did a timeshare presentation. So
you met the backslapper guy.
Oh, he was going to be our best friend for life. You
can bet. And he walked out of that presentation, and I'm not there, right? So when she says we, she does not mean her and I. That guy thinks he's the best buddy of everyone he ever talks to, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, and you can tell. You can just tell it's one of those things where it was fake. It was the car salesman. So just be careful when you're having that communication with people on how, you got to remember back to how we started the conversation. How is it being perceived?
Absolutely. So that's great. I think that's fantastic. I think the next thing that we need to talk about is understanding the communication channels that are out there, because now we live in a world where there's so many different ways to communicate, which means there's so many different ways to screw it up, right? And to have our message misunderstood. So I tell people all the time, tell me what the best way to reach you is, because we all have our preferences. And I've asked this question on Facebook a half a dozen times over the years. Would you prefer I call you, email you, text you, Facebook message you, tweet you, LinkedIn you, send you a video, right? Write you a letter? What do you want?
If somebody says to write them a letter, I might skip that one.
They're totally green. They're so green. Stop being so anal. Yeah.
No, I think that's really good. I think that's a great point. And asking is a great way to do it, because, I'll be having a call soon with one of my clients, and they are a phone picker-upper, you know? And you learn that over time, what people best like their communication. And if you can conform to that, the better off you are. Now, granted, I try to push the emails as much as possible and the texting as much as possible, especially down the road once you're familiar with somebody, because you don't need to necessarily take all that time. It ends up being a lot of time, and time is money, time is energy, and we don't have a ton of time. So it's something to be aware of what needs they want, and then what also helps you too.
I think that's so critical, right? And you're right. All you have to do is ask. Mm-hmm. I still want to build an app, right? I want to build a part of a CMS, or I call it a network management system, that includes that functionality, that when I go to send you a message, regardless of how I send the message, you receive it in the way you want to receive it.
There is something like that out there, I believe. Mike O'Neill, who was our first guest on the show, he was using something very similar to that. Mm-hmm.
And that's sweet. I mean, because that's a great idea, because just because I want to email you doesn't mean you want to receive it that way.
Well, you get a LinkedIn message. I mean, I don't see it maybe, or it's interesting. It just, everybody does their different thing. So I do agree, if you can have it go into one pot, but it could be from any different place. It'd be great idea.
Absolutely. And it sounds like it was such a good idea that somebody already beat me to it.
Yeah, but doesn't mean that you couldn't still build your own.
Yeah, well, that's, hey, quick, reinvent the wheel. All right. So I think this is number 10.
Okay.
That's sometimes how the show goes.
We're at that time.
Perfect. So that works out well. It's really simple. It's like, use your manners, right? Say please and thank you. Right?
Ooh, yeah.
Just such an important lesson that we just skip over so much. I have a tendency to forget sometimes, because when I'm in hammer mode and everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
Right? This is what I need. Here's the message. No pleasantries, no small talk, no anything. Hey, I need Lawrence Tech University to come sponsor TEDx Detroit. Who I need to talk to? Oh, and hi.
So in your emails, I think I've seen some of your emails, but are you a hi so-and-so, or are you a just start the message?
I generally am a hi so-and-so.
Okay. I do both. But if I'm responding and we're going back and forth, screw saying hi again.
Oh, no. Hi once. We're talking about emails only, but I'm hi once. Yeah, the rest of it is just to the point, right? Okay. The pleasantries and the formalities out the window.
The other thing that I do is I mirror how my clients talk. So here's the thing, or anybody in email. So if they send me a message that says, "Hi, Janet!" ! They get responded. "Hi, so-and-so." I'm an exclamation point gal. I mean, I use those over a comma. But if they're a comma person, every email reply is exactly how they speak to me.
That's fascinating.
So I do mirror, except for I end every single email with, and I don't care who I'm talking to, a thanks with the exclamation point. That is what I don't do a comma. The beginning part might be it's whatever they are doing. So
that's kind of funny that I guess I never noticed that you were an exclamation point kind of chick, but that doesn't surprise me a bit about you. Janet. That's really funny to me. My salutation or the sign off on my email is always the same. It's consider yourself connected. Right?
Yes.
Because that's part of my brand and what
lines to your online success.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. So, and I think sometimes I get that even if it is a bunch of replies that still shows up, because I don't want anyone ever to not be able to open up my email and go, there's his number, boom, I'm calling him right now. It drives me bonkers when people don't have their phone number in their email signature.
Yeah, I agree.
If I have to send you 12 emails, and this really goes under that whole channels conversation.
Yep.
If I'm sending you 12 emails, we should have picked up the phone 6 emails ago. Right? That this was a phone call. Stop emailing me. Stop texting me. Let's just talk, hammer it out, and be done with it.
Well, and you want to make it easy for them to contact you, and you want to be able to contact them very easily if you need to pick up that phone. So I do agree with that.
100%. So very cool.
Please and thank you. And, it's common manners that some people, don't have, but and we forget. We all do forget sometimes when we're doing those, texts and the emails and the communications online, but you want to just stay with that. I love the communications. I think we talked a lot today about personal face-to-face, but we also talked a lot about how to do it emailing, online, anywhere. It's common sense. But I think sometimes we forget the common sense.
I told somebody I was getting a master's degree in communications, and they're like, you're getting a master's degree in common sense?
Interesting.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. You know why? Because how common is common sense these days? And he's like, you got me there. Yes. So very good.
Awesome.
Where are they going to find us? Tell them again.
All right.
Because now we're at the ending.
BusinessGrowthTime.com. BusinessGrowthTime.com/iTunes is our iTunes. And then obviously if you just go on, you can find our Stitcher too, just on our website. It's all over the place. And then search us out on Facebook, Business Growth Time, and join our group.
Awesome. Fun times, Janet E. Johnson. Fun times. Have a fantastic rest of the day. And we'll talk to the rest of you very, very soon.
All right. Have a good one. All right. Perfect timing. You stopped it.